This is Steve Leibowitz from Win News. I'm here today with David Parsons from the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. David, Donald Trump made a significant announcement recognizing Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel and also encouraging and announcing that he was planning to move the U.S. Embassy over here. Are you encouraging this move? Is it a good idea for countries to move their embassies?
We're very excited about this decision by the Trump administration to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the embassy here. This is something we've been advocating for decades now. And in fact, the Christian Embassy itself was founded at a time when the last national embassies left Jerusalem. And we decided, Christians from dozens of nations came together and said, if our countries aren't going to represent us here, we'll have to do it ourselves. And so in 1980, the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, was founded to be a permanent expression of Christian solidarity with Israel, and in particular with their ancient claim and connection to Jerusalem. So we've very warmly welcomed the decision by Trump to recognize Jerusalem.
Of course, there's an interest in having more countries move their embassies and recognize Jerusalem as the capital. As you say, you have members in dozens of countries. What kind of feedback are you getting from those members? What are their countries saying?
Well, we think this is a new season for Jerusalem, and we're encouraging other nations to follow the lead of the American administration. I think a lot of countries have actually been waiting on America to do this because they've watched as Congress in 1995 passed a bill, an actual law to move the embassy, and waiting for an American president to finally follow through on their promises. And so we've already seen the Czech Republic. We lobbied their parliament for several years on this, and in October they passed a resolution that their president should recognize Jerusalem as the capital. And now the president of the Czech Republic, he's got backing on this issue. He's not only says we're going to do it, but he's calling out other European leaders on this issue. Because he has such strong political backing within his own parliament, he's called other European leaders cowards for not really having the courage, like Trump, to follow through and do the right thing. It's long overdue. For 70 years, there's been this ugly diplomatic snubbing and slighting of Jerusalem. It's such an important city. And there's no longer any reason to wait for the Palestinians to come to the peace table and finally agree to peace. How long are we going to wait on this? It's the right decision, and we're very excited. Other nations, we believe, are going to follow suit. The Philippines, in Africa, Tanzania, perhaps some of the French-speaking countries in West Africa are already talking about this. We've understood. And in Latin America, I believe Guatemala has already voiced interest in coming back to Jerusalem.
So if we're looking forward, let's say a year, 2 years from now, you expect this whole neighborhood to be filled with embassies? I mean, this is an area that has buildings that are suitable for embassies.
Yes. Here in the German colony neighborhood of Jerusalem, there are quite a few consulates. The Greek consulate is across the street, Norway House just a block or so away, Italian consulate in this area. But I think there's a logistical concerns that have to be looked at. It's going to take a little time, not only to find buildings or for the Americans to build a building, but it involves diplomatic families. They have to have schools for their children. They have to have housing. So with Jerusalem itself and the city has to really embrace this and take the growing pains it's going to require to welcome the diplomatic corps up here. And it'll take a few years.
So finally, I'd like to ask you this. Looking ahead, let's say 10 years down the road, all the embassies from all the countries have moved their embassies to Jerusalem and recognized that it is Israel's capital. Is that the point that the Christian embassy can basically pack up and say, all right, we've done our thing?
We were founded at a unique moment when the last embassies left Jerusalem and the Jewish people felt isolated and alone in the world, and therefore they were more receptive to the idea of Christians coming and saying, we want to stand in solidarity with you. But we had been standing there for many, many years already, and the idea of opening a Christian embassy, while there were still quite a few embassies left here in Jerusalem, it was already circulating. The moment just came for us to be born. And even if all these nations come back, we still feel there's a huge constituency out there, nearly 700 million evangelical Christians, even Christians from other streams of our faith, that feel we raise concerns and have views on Jerusalem that even our diplomats and our governments don't express, and maybe they can express the sort of devotion that we feel to Jerusalem, but which flows out of that original Jewish claim and connection to this city. So we think our reason for existence predates even our founding. We're a voice here, a permanent voice of unique Christian concern for Israel and for Jerusalem that even our governments, they'll never be able to express.
So as of now, the International Christian Embassy is the only embassy in Jerusalem. That is likely to change. Thanks so much for being with us, David Parsons from the International Christian Embassy here in Jerusalem.
Thank you, Steve.